The airport terminal buzzed with the usual chaos of travelers rushing to catch their flights. Among the crowd, a young woman walked quickly, pulling a small wheeled suitcase behind her. Her daughter, barely 7 years old, gripped her free hand tightly, struggling to keep up with her mother's hurried pace. The woman's eyes were red and puffy, not from the recycled airport air, but from crying. She had just received the worst news of her life 3 days ago. Her mother had passed away suddenly, and she needed to get home for the funeral. The ticket had cost nearly everything she had saved up over the past 6 months. Working as a nursing assistant during the day and waitressing on weekends didn't leave much room for savings, but she'd been putting away $20 here, $30 there, hoping to take her daughter somewhere nice for her birthday. Instead, that money was now buying them tickets across the country for a funeral. She checked her phone for the 100th time. They were cutting it close. Her shift at the diner had run late because someone called in sick and she couldn't say no. She needed every dollar. By the time she picked up her daughter from the neighbor's apartment and made it to the airport, they had less than 40 minutes before boarding closed. "Mommy, I'm tired," the little girl said, her stuffed bunny dragging on the floor behind her. "I know, sweetheart. Just a little bit more. We're almost there." They made it through security with minutes to spare. The woman's heart pounded as they ran toward their gate. She could see the line of passengers already boarding. Thank goodness they hadn't closed the doors yet. She handed their boarding passes to the gate agent, barely hearing the woman's words over the sound of her own racing heartbeat. Something about rows and overhead bins and boarding group. The woman just nodded, grabbed the passes back, and rushed down the jet bridge with her daughter. The past 72 hours had been a blur. The phone call. The shock. The frantic arrangements. She hadn't slept more than a few hours total. Her mind felt like it was moving through thick fog. All she could think about was getting to her hometown, seeing her mother one last time, and somehow explaining death to her 7-year-old daughter. Inside the plane, she glanced at the boarding pass, trying to make sense of the numbers. Row 2, seats A and B. She walked forward, passing through a curtain into a surprisingly spacious cabin. The seats were huge, covered in soft leather. There was so much legroom, she vaguely thought that maybe this was one of those newer planes with a different layout. She found their row and helped her daughter climb into the window seat. The little girl pressed her face against the glass immediately, watching the workers load luggage below. "Look, Mommy, that man is throwing the suitcases." "Shh, baby. Use your inside voice." The woman collapsed into the aisle seat, finally able to take a breath. Her whole body ached from exhaustion. She closed her eyes for just a moment, trying to gather herself. In a few hours, she'd have to be strong for her daughter, strong for her family. But right now, in this seat, she could just exist. Other passengers began filing past them. She noticed some of them glancing down at her and her daughter with curious expressions, but she was too tired to think much about it. People always stared at single moms, especially ones who looked as worn out as she felt. A flight attendant approached, a polite smile on her face. She seemed to be looking at their seats, then at a clipboard in her hand. The woman's stomach dropped. Something was wrong, but before the flight attendant could speak, another voice cut in. "Excuse me, miss?" The woman turned to see an elegant lady in the seat across the aisle. She was probably in her early 40s, wearing a perfectly tailored business suit that probably cost more than 3 months of rent. Her dark hair was pulled back neatly, and despite being on a plane, she somehow looked like she'd just stepped out of a magazine. The well-dressed woman was looking at the flight attendant, not at her. She gave a small, almost imperceptible shake of her head. The flight attendant's expression changed from official business to understanding. She nodded slightly and moved away without saying a word. The young mother had no idea what just happened. She was too focused on keeping her daughter entertained and quiet. The little girl had pulled out a small coloring book from her backpack, one of the cheap ones from the dollar store. "Mommy, can I color the princess?" "Yes, baby. But stay in the lines, okay? We don't have a lot of pages left." She helped her daughter get settled with the coloring book and the 3 crayons they had left, red, blue, and yellow. The other colors had broken or gotten lost weeks ago. She kept meaning to buy new ones, but there was always something more urgent. Groceries, the electric bill, the payment plan for her mother's medication that in the end hadn't been enough. Her eyes filled with tears again. She turned toward the window, not wanting her daughter to see. Through the blur, she could see the tarmac, the other planes, the endless sky beyond. Her mother had always loved flying. She'd only been on a plane twice in her entire life, but she'd talked about those trips for years afterward. The young mother hadn't even been able to afford to fly her mother out to visit them. They'd only seen each other through video calls for the past 2 years. And now she never would again. "Ma'am, can I get you something to drink?" She wiped her eyes quickly and looked up at the flight attendant, forcing a smile. "Oh, just water, please. And maybe some juice for my daughter if you have it." "Of course. We have apple, orange, and cranberry. Apple would be wonderful, thank you." As the plane began to taxi toward the runway, she finally took a real look around. That's when it hit her. The china glasses the flight attendant was using. The extra-wide seats. The fancy menu cards in the seat pocket. The way everyone else in this section was dressed in business suits and designer clothes. Her heart stopped. This wasn't economy. This was first class. She grabbed their boarding passes from her pocket with shaking hands and looked at them closely for the first time. Economy, row 27. They were supposed to be in the back of the plane. Oh no. Oh no, no, no. She must have misread the numbers in her exhausted state, or gone to the wrong row. She'd made a terrible mistake. They were sitting in seats that probably cost 3 times what she'd paid. Maybe more. She started to stand up, panic rising in her chest. She'd have to confess. They'd have to move. Everyone would stare at her as she did the walk of shame to the back of the plane. Her daughter would be confused and upset. Maybe they'd even get in trouble. But as she began gathering their things, the elegant woman across the aisle spoke again, her voice gentle and warm. "Please stay." The young mother froze, clutching her daughter's backpack. She turned to look at the woman, confusion written all over her face. We're in the wrong seats. We shouldn't be here." The elegant woman smiled, and there was something kind in her eyes, something that reminded her of her own mother. "I've already spoken with the crew. Everything is taken care of. Please stay." The young mother didn't understand. She couldn't speak. All she could do was sink back into her seat as tears started flowing freely down her cheeks, unable to stop them this time. The young mother sat frozen in her seat, unable to process what had just happened. A complete stranger had just told her to stay in first class, that everything was taken care of. But how? Why? Nothing like this ever happened to people like her. She wiped her tears with the back of her hand, trying to compose herself. Her daughter looked up from her coloring book, noticing her mother's distress. "Mommy, why are you crying?" "I'm okay, sweetheart. Just thinking about Grandma." The little girl nodded solemnly, a wisdom beyond her years in her eyes. "Grandma's with the angels now. That's what Mrs. Patterson said." "That's right, baby. That's exactly right." The plane accelerated down the runway, and soon they were airborne. The young mother watched through the window as the ground fell away, the cars and buildings becoming tiny dots below. She felt like she was in a dream. A very strange, impossible dream. Once they reached cruising altitude, the flight attendant returned with a tray. Real glassware, not plastic cups. The water came with a slice of lemon. Her daughter's apple juice was in a proper glass with a napkin underneath. There were even warm mixed nuts in a small bowl. "Can I interest you ladies in lunch today? We have herb-crusted chicken with roasted vegetables or a pasta primavera." The young mother's stomach growled. She'd been too upset to eat breakfast, and she'd skipped dinner the night before. But she shouldn't accept this. It was too much. "Oh, we already ate, thank you," she lied. Her daughter piped up immediately. "No, we didn't, Mommy. You said we'd eat on the plane, remember?" The flight attendant smiled kindly. "The meal is included with your seats. Please let me bring you both something." Before she could protest again, the elegant woman across the aisle spoke up. "The chicken is quite good. I've had it before. Your daughter might enjoy the pasta, though. They make it very mild." The young mother looked between the two women, feeling completely overwhelmed. Finally, she nodded. "The pasta sounds perfect for her. And I'll have the chicken." "Thank you." As they waited for their food, she couldn't help but glance at the woman across the aisle. She was reading something on a tablet, occasionally making notes on a leather-bound notepad. Everything about her spoke of success and confidence. She was exactly the kind of person the young mother wished she could be someday. The woman looked up and caught her staring. Instead of seeming annoyed, she smiled. "First time in first class?" The young mother felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment. "Is it that obvious?" "Not at all. I just recognized the look. I wore it myself once many years ago." The woman closed her tablet and turned slightly in her seat. "I'm guessing you didn't exactly plan to be up here?" There was no judgment in her voice, only curiosity and kindness. Something about that made the young mother want to tell the truth. I made a mistake. I was so tired and distracted. I wasn't paying attention to the seat numbers. We're supposed to be in economy. She paused, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. I still don't understand why you helped us. The elegant woman was quiet for a moment, and something shifted in her expression. A sadness, maybe, or a memory. I lost my mother 2 years ago, she said softly. I can see that weight you're carrying. That fog, I remember it so clearly. And I thought, if someone had shown me a small kindness during that time, it would have meant the world. The young mother's eyes filled with tears again. I'm so sorry for your loss. And I'm sorry for yours. The woman extended her hand across the aisle. I'm Christina. I'm Lisa, the young mother replied, shaking her hand. It felt strange to use her name, to be treated like an equal by someone who so clearly lived in a different world. The flight attendants arrived with their meals, and Lisa couldn't believe what she was seeing. The food was plated like something from a real restaurant, not airplane food at all. Her daughter's eyes went wide at the pasta with its perfectly arranged vegetables. Mommy, this looks like the pictures in your cooking magazines. Lisa laughed despite herself. Yes, baby, it does. Now eat up. As they ate, Christina and Lisa began to talk. It started simply enough, pleasantries about the weather and the flight. But then Christina asked about Lisa's daughter, and Lisa found herself opening up in a way she rarely did with anyone. She told Christina about working 2 jobs, about the constant struggle to make ends meet, about how her daughter needed new shoes but the rent was due, about the guilt of leaving her daughter with neighbors while she worked late shifts, about the impossibility of ever getting ahead when everything cost so much and she earned so little. Christina listened without interrupting, without offering empty platitudes or judging. She just listened, really listened, in a way that made Lisa feel seen for the first time in years. Then Christina shared her own story. She'd grown up poor, raised by a single mother who worked herself to exhaustion. She'd watched her mother choose between heating and groceries, between medicine and rent. She'd worn secondhand clothes and eaten plain pasta for dinner more nights than she could count. How did you get from there to here? Lisa asked, gesturing at Christina's expensive suit and designer bag. Luck, mostly, Christina said honestly, and one person who believed in me. My high school teacher gave me money for college applications. She even drove me to my scholarship interviews because we didn't have a car. She showed me that sometimes someone just needs a hand up at the right moment. Lisa felt her throat tighten. That's an amazing story. It's not finished yet, Christina said with a knowing smile. The best stories never are. After they finished eating, Lisa's daughter fell asleep against the window, her stuffed bunny clutched tight in her arms. The exhaustion of the past few days had finally caught up with her. Lisa gently adjusted the blanket the flight attendant had brought, tucking it around her daughter's small shoulders. Christina watched this simple act of motherly love with a soft expression. You're a good mother. I can tell. I'm trying, Lisa whispered. Some days I feel like I'm failing her, like she deserves so much better than what I can give her. She has what matters most. She has you and she has love. Trust me, that's worth more than anything money can buy. They continued talking as the plane cut through the clouds. Christina told Lisa about her work in investments, though she explained it in simple terms that didn't feel condescending. She talked about the companies she helped grow, the entrepreneurs she believed in. Lisa talked about her dream of becoming a registered nurse someday, if she could ever afford to finish her degree. Why did you stop? Christina asked. My daughter's father left when I was pregnant. I had to drop out and start working. I was only a year away from graduating. Lisa shrugged, trying to act like it didn't still hurt. That's life, right? Sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. That's not life. That's surviving. There's a difference. The words hit Lisa harder than she expected. She had been surviving, not living. Just getting through each day, each bill, each crisis. When had she stopped believing things could actually get better? As they began their descent, Christina excused herself to use the restroom. When she returned, she sat down and seemed to hesitate before reaching into her purse. She pulled out a business card and something else, a small envelope. I want you to have this, Christina said, pressing both items into Lisa's hand. But promise me you won't look at it until you're alone. Not until you're away from the airport. Lisa looked down at the business card. Christina's full name. Her title is CEO of an investment firm. Contact information. But it was the envelope that puzzled her. What is this? A gift from one mother to another. From someone who remembers what it's like to be where you are. Christina's eyes were serious now. And I only ask one thing in return. What's that? When you're in a position to help someone else someday, and you will be, I want you to do it. Pay it forward. That's all. Before Lisa could respond, the plane touched down with a gentle bump. The spell of their conversation broke as passengers around them began gathering their belongings. Lisa slipped the envelope and business card into her purse, her mind spinning with questions. As they deplaned, Lisa kept looking for Christina in the crowd, wanting to thank her properly, wanting to understand. But the elegant woman had disappeared into the stream of travelers, gone as quickly as she had appeared in Lisa's life. Standing at the baggage claim with her daughter's hand in hers, Lisa finally pulled out the envelope. Her hand shook as she opened it. Inside was a check and a handwritten note on expensive stationery. Lisa's eyes went to the amount first and her knees nearly buckled. $5,000. The note read, "For your daughter's shoes and for whatever dreams you've been putting off. This isn't charity. This is one woman helping another climb. I've been where you are and someone helped me. Now I'm helping you. Pay it forward when you can. You're going to do amazing things." Lisa stood there in the middle of the busy airport, tears streaming down her face, clutching a piece of paper that represented more money than she'd ever held at one time. Her daughter tugged at her sleeve. "Mommy, is that from the nice lady on the plane?" "Yes, baby," Lisa managed to say. "Yes, it is." She was like a fairy godmother. Lisa laughed through her tears, pulling her daughter close. "You know what? I think you might be right." The funeral was harder than Lisa had imagined. Standing beside her mother's casket, holding her daughter's hand, she felt like a little girl again herself, lost and scared and wishing her mom could fix everything one more time. But life doesn't work that way. Her aunts and uncles hugged her, telling her how proud her mother had been, how she'd bragged about Lisa's determination, her strength, how well she was raising her granddaughter despite everything. Lisa nodded and smiled and thanked them, but inside she felt like a fraud. Strong. She was barely holding it together most days. That night, staying in her childhood bedroom at her aunt's house, Lisa pulled out the check again. She'd looked at it 100 times already, half convinced it would disappear or turn out to be fake. $5,000, written in Christina's elegant handwriting, real ink on real paper. She kept thinking about Christina's words. Pay it forward. But how could she pay anything forward when she could barely pay her own bills? Her daughter was asleep beside her, curled up with that worn stuffed bunny. Lisa traced her finger along her daughter's cheek, so soft and innocent. She thought about all the things this money could do. New shoes, yes. A warm winter coat. Maybe even that educational tablet for school that her daughter's teacher had recommended. But then she thought about Christina's other words. Dreams you've been putting off. Lisa pulled out her phone and opened her banking app, something she usually avoided because seeing her account balance only made her anxious. She held her breath as she used the mobile deposit feature to photograph the check. The app said it would take 3 to 5 business days to clear, 3 to 5 days to find out if this miracle was real. The weekend passed in a blur of family gatherings and memories shared. Everyone had a story about her mother. The time she'd driven through a snowstorm to help a neighbor. The way she'd always had an extra plate of food for anyone who needed it. The incredible garden she'd grown every summer, sharing vegetables with half the neighborhood. Her mother had been rich in all the ways that mattered, Lisa realized. She'd just never had any money. On Monday morning, Lisa and her daughter flew back home. Economy this time, squeezed into narrow seats with crying babies and no legroom, but Lisa didn't mind. She kept touching her purse where Christina's business card was tucked safely in a pocket. A reminder that the whole thing had actually happened. Tuesday morning, Lisa's alarm went off at 5:30 as usual. She dragged herself out of bed, made breakfast for her daughter, dropped her at the neighbor's apartment and headed to her shift at the hospital. She was checking vitals on patients, changing bedding, doing the same routine she'd done for 3 years. But something felt different. She kept thinking about nursing school, about the classes she'd been so close to finishing, about how much she'd loved learning about patient care, about medicine, about helping people heal. During her lunch break, she did something she hadn't done in years. She looked up the local community college's nursing program. the one she'd had to leave. The website said they were accepting applications for the spring semester. Classes started in January, just 3 months away. Her heart started racing. Could she actually do this? Wednesday morning, she checked her banking app the second she woke up. The check had cleared. $5,217 sat in her account. She'd never seen numbers like that with her name attached to them. Lisa sat on the edge of her bed staring at the screen. She could pay ahead on rent, build an emergency fund, finally buy her daughter all the things she needed. The practical part of her brain was already making lists and calculations, but Christina's voice kept echoing in her mind. Dreams you've been putting off. That afternoon after her shift ended, Lisa did something terrifying. Instead of heading to the diner for her evening shift, she called her manager and asked for time off. Just 2 hours. She'd never asked for time off before. She drove to the community college and walked into the admissions office. Her hands were shaking as she approached the desk. "I'd like to get information about the nursing program," she told the woman behind the counter. "I was enrolled a few years ago, but I had to leave. I want to come back." The admissions counselor pulled up her old records and smiled. "You were an excellent student. Straight A's in all your core classes. Why did you leave?" Lisa felt her throat tighten. "Life got complicated, but I'm ready to try again." They talked for over an hour, about credit transfers and class schedules and financial aid. The counselor helped her fill out forms for grants and scholarships. She explained that Lisa would need about 15 more credit hours to complete her associate degree, which she could then use to take the nursing licensing exam. If you take 2 classes in the spring and 2 more in the summer, you could graduate by August, the counselor said. Classes meet twice a week in the evenings. Is that manageable with your work schedule? Lisa thought about her 2 jobs, her daughter, the exhaustion that never seemed to end. Then she thought about Christina, about the gift she'd been given, about the trust someone had placed in her. "I'll make it work," Lisa said. The tuition for the spring semester was $1,200 after the grants were applied. It felt like an enormous amount and almost nothing at the same time. Lisa filled out the enrollment forms right there, her hand trembling as she signed her name. Walking back to her car, she felt lighter somehow. Terrified but lighter. She'd just committed to something that would make her life even harder in the short term. More studying, less sleep, even more juggling. But for the first time in years, she was moving forward instead of just surviving. That night, after putting her daughter to bed, Lisa sat down and wrote an email. She'd found Christina's email address on the business card and had been too scared to use it until now. "Dear Christina," she typed, "I don't even know how to thank you properly for what you did. The check cleared today and I still can't quite believe it's real. I wanted you to know what I'm doing with it. I'm going back to nursing school. I enrolled today. It's scary and I don't know how I'll manage everything, but I keep thinking about what you said about surviving versus living. I want to live. I want my daughter to see that dreams don't have to stay dreams forever. I promise I'll pay it forward someday. I don't know how or when, but I will. Thank you for seeing something in me that I'd stopped seeing in myself." She reread it 5 times before hitting send, then immediately worried it sounded stupid or too emotional, but it was honest and that was all she had to give. Lisa didn't expect a response. Christina was probably incredibly busy with important business things. But the next morning there was a reply in her inbox. "Lisa, I am so incredibly proud of you. Going back to school is brave and hard, and you're doing it anyway. That's what courage looks like. Please keep me updated on your progress. And if you ever need anything, a reference letter, advice, or just someone to talk to, I'm here. You're going to be an amazing nurse. Keep going." Lisa read that email at least 20 times throughout the day. She saved it in a special folder, printed it out, and put it on her refrigerator. Those words from someone who barely knew her but believed in her anyway meant more than Christina could possibly know. The next few months were brutal. Lisa cut back her hours at the diner but couldn't quit entirely. She needed the income. She studied during her daughter's school hours, on her lunch breaks, late into the night after everyone else was asleep. Her first class was anatomy and physiology, and it was harder than she remembered anything being. There were nights she cried from exhaustion. Mornings she wanted to give up. Times she wondered if she'd made a terrible mistake. But she kept going. Her daughter helped her make flashcards even though she couldn't read half the words. They turned studying into a game. "Quiz me, baby," Lisa would say, and her daughter would hold up cards with medical terms. and Lisa would try to pronounce them and explain what they meant in simple words. "You're learning so much, Mommy," her daughter said one night. "You're going to be so smart." "I'm learning so I can take better care of people," Lisa explained. "Like how Grandma always took care of everyone. Remember?" Her daughter nodded seriously. "And then you can help people like the nice lady helped us." Lisa pulled her daughter close. "Exactly like that, baby. Exactly like that." By the end of spring semester, Lisa had earned an A in anatomy and physiology, and a B+ in medical terminology. She was tired, broke, and living on coffee and determination, but she was doing it. She sent Christina updates every few weeks. Nothing long, just quick notes about her grades or funny things that happened in class. Christina always responded with encouragement and pride. They'd never met again in person, but somehow they'd become something like friends. Summer semester started in June. 2 more classes. Lisa was so close now she could almost touch it. She bought used textbooks online and studied medical procedures until they appeared in her dreams. She practiced taking vital signs on her daughter, who thought it was hilarious to pretend to be a patient with dramatic made-up symptoms. "Doctor, I have a terrible case of the sillies," her daughter would announce, and Lisa would play along, examining her stuffed bunny with exaggerated seriousness. These were the moments that made everything worthwhile. The laughter, the hope, the feeling that they were building toward something better. In August, Lisa took her final exams. She waited for the grades to post with her heart in her throat. When she finally logged in and saw them, she actually screamed. 2 more A's, she'd done it. She'd finished her degree. She immediately emailed Christina with one line. "I graduated." The response came within minutes. "I never doubted you for a second. Congratulations, Lisa. Your mother would be so proud." Lisa cried happy tears for the first time in what felt like forever. Getting her nursing degree was one thing. Passing the licensing exam was another beast entirely. Lisa signed up for the test in September and spent every spare moment studying. The exam was comprehensive, covering everything she'd learned over the past 2 years and everything from before she'd had to drop out. The testing center was cold and sterile, filled with nervous candidates all hoping to start their nursing careers. Lisa sat in front of the computer screen, her palms sweating, clicking through question after question. Some she knew instantly, others made her second-guess herself. The exam adapted to her answers, getting harder or easier based on her performance, and she had no idea if that was a good sign or a bad one. When the screen finally went dark and told her she was finished, she felt numb. She'd find out in a few days if she'd passed. Until then, all she could do was wait and try not to panic. Those days felt longer than the entire 2 years of school combined. Lisa went through the motions at work, distracted and anxious. Her daughter could tell something was wrong. "Are you worried about your test, Mommy?" "A little bit, sweetheart. You studied so hard." "I know you did good." Lisa hugged her tight, drawing strength from her daughter's unwavering faith in her. On the 4th day, the email came. Lisa was on her lunch break at the hospital eating a sandwich in the break room when her phone buzzed. She saw the subject line, "Nursing License Examination Results." Her hands shook so badly she almost dropped the phone. She couldn't open it. What if she'd failed? What if all that work, all that sacrifice, Christina's generosity, had been for nothing? A coworker noticed her frozen expression. "You okay, honey?" "It's my test results. I'm too scared to look." The coworker, an older nurse named Patricia, who'd always been kind to Lisa, came around the table and sat beside her. "Want me to look first?" Lisa nodded, handing over her phone. She watched Patricia's face carefully, trying to read her expression. The older woman's eyes scanned the email and then she broke into a huge smile. "You passed." "Lisa, you passed." Lisa burst into tears right there in the break room. Patricia hugged her while other staff members gathered around, offering congratulations. They'd all watched Lisa work herself to exhaustion, studying during every break, and they knew what this meant to her. That afternoon, Lisa applied for an RN position at the same hospital where she'd been working as a nursing assistant. She knew the facility, knew the staff, and they knew her work ethic. Within 2 weeks, she had an interview. Within a month, she had a job offer. The salary was almost double what she'd been making. With benefits, real health insurance, paid time off. She'd be able to quit the diner entirely. She could afford a better apartment in a safer neighborhood with good schools. Lisa's first day as a registered nurse felt surreal. Wearing scrubs with her name tag that said RN after her name, she walked through the same halls she'd walked as an assistant, but everything felt different. She had more responsibility now, more authority, more ability to actually help patients. Her supervisor paired her with Patricia for training, which made the transition easier. Patricia showed her the ropes, taught her the hospital systems, and became something of a mentor. During one of their shifts, Patricia asked about Lisa's journey. "I've worked here 15 years, Patricia said, and I've never seen someone work as hard as you did to get here. What drove you?" Lisa thought about that question. "I wanted my daughter to see that you don't have to stay stuck, that you can change your life if you're willing to work for it. And someone believed in me when I'd stopped believing in myself. I couldn't let her down." She told Patricia the whole story then. The plane, the mistake, Christina's kindness, the check, going back to school. Patricia listened with tears in her eyes. "That's beautiful," Patricia said. "You were given a gift and you multiplied it. That's rare." Over the next year, Lisa's life transformed in ways she'd never imagined possible. She moved into a 2-bedroom apartment with a small yard where her daughter could play. She bought a reliable used car to replace the one that broke down every other month. She could afford dance classes for her daughter, who'd always wanted to learn ballet but they'd never been able to afford it. Most importantly, she could breathe. The constant panic about money didn't disappear entirely, but it loosened its grip. She could buy groceries without calculating every item. She could say yes sometimes instead of always saying no. Lisa stayed in touch with Christina through occasional emails and phone calls. They'd talk about work, life, and the challenges of balancing everything. Christina had given birth to a baby boy and was navigating new motherhood while running her company. Despite living completely different lives, they'd formed a real friendship. One evening in late October, almost 2 years after that flight, Lisa was working the evening shift in the emergency room. It had been a chaotic day, the ER packed with patients, a car accident victim, several cases of flu, a child who'd fallen from a playground. Around 8 o'clock, paramedics rushed in with a woman on a stretcher. Car accident, possible concussion, vitals stable, but the patient was disoriented. Lisa was assigned to her care along with the attending physician. As Lisa began her assessment, checking the woman's pupils and asking standard questions, something made her look closer at the patient's face. Even with a bruise forming on her forehead and dirt on her expensive clothes, Lisa recognized her instantly. "Christina." The woman's eyes focused on Lisa's face, confusion clearing into recognition. "Lisa, is that really you?" "It's me," Lisa said, her voice shaking with emotion. "You're going to be okay. I've got you." Over the next several hours, Lisa monitored Christina carefully. The doctor ordered a CT scan to rule out serious head injury, kept her for observation, ran through all the standard protocols. Lisa stayed by her side whenever she could, between other patients and duties. Christina kept staring at Lisa in her scrubs with her stethoscope, confidently reading monitors and adjusting IV lines. "You did it," Christina whispered. "You actually did it. You're a nurse." "Because of you," Lisa said. "Because you gave me a chance when I had none left." The CT scan came back clear. No internal bleeding, no fractures, just a concussion that would heal with rest. By midnight, the doctor cleared Christina for discharge, though he insisted someone needed to drive her home and watch her for the next 24 hours. "My husband is out of town on business," Christina said. "He's trying to get a flight back, but it won't be until morning." "Then you're coming home with me," Lisa said firmly. "Doctor's orders. You need observation, and I'm a nurse. I can do that." Christina tried to protest, but Lisa wouldn't hear it. "You helped me when I needed it most. Let me return the favor, please." Christina's eyes filled with tears. "Okay," she whispered. Lisa finished her shift and drove Christina to her apartment. It was modest compared to what Christina was probably used to, but it was clean and warm and safe. Lisa's daughter was already asleep, so Lisa settled Christina on the couch with pillows and blankets. "I need to check on you every few hours," Lisa explained. "Wake you up, make sure you're responsive, check your pupils. Standard concussion protocol." "I know," Christina said with a small smile. "I trust you completely." Lisa made tea and they sat together in the quiet apartment, the roles reversed from that airplane 2 years ago. Now Lisa was the one taking care of Christina. "I never properly thanked you," Lisa said. "I mean, I said thank you, but I don't think you understand what you did for me. You didn't just give me money. You gave me hope. You made me believe I was worth investing in." Christina reached out and squeezed Lisa's hand. I saw something in you that day. A mother who loved her child so much, who was fighting so hard despite being exhausted and heartbroken. I knew if you got even the smallest opportunity, you'd run with it. And you did. You proved me right. They talked through the night, Lisa checking Christina's condition every 2 hours as required. Christina told her about her baby boy, about the challenges of balancing motherhood and her company. Lisa shared stories about her daughter's dance recitals and the funny things that happened at the hospital. You know what I've been thinking about lately? Christina said during one of the check-ins around 4 in the morning. Starting a foundation, something to help single mothers get education, childcare, job training. I keep thinking about all the women like you, like my mother was, who just need one good break. Lisa felt her heart swell. That would change so many lives. I was hoping you might help me, Christina said. Not full-time, obviously, but maybe speak at events? Share your story? Show other women that it's possible? I'd be honored, Lisa said without hesitation. As dawn broke through the windows, Christina's husband called to say he'd landed and was on his way. Lisa made breakfast, simple scrambled eggs and toast, and they ate together at the small kitchen table. Funny how life works, Christina said. 2 years ago I helped you on a plane. Now you're helping me in your home. Saving my life in a hospital. We've come full circle. Not quite full circle, Lisa said. There's still the paying it forward part. I haven't done that yet, Christina smiled. Something tells me you will. And when you do, it'll be perfect. When Christina's husband arrived, he hugged Lisa and thanked her profusely for taking care of his wife. As they were leaving, Christina turned back at the door. Lisa, we should do this properly. Let's have dinner next week, you and your daughter, me and my husband and the baby. A real celebration of where we both are now. I'd love that, Lisa said. After they left, Lisa's daughter woke up and came out in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. Was that the fairy godmother lady from the airplane? Lisa laughed and scooped her daughter up. Yes, baby. That was her. And guess what? She needs us now, just like we needed her back then. So we're like a family now? Lisa thought about that. About Christina. About the bond they'd formed, about how one act of kindness had rippled outward and connected their lives forever. Yeah, sweetheart. I think maybe we are. The dinner the following week was everything Lisa had hoped it would be. Christina's home was beautiful but not intimidating, filled with family photos and baby toys scattered across the floor. Her husband was warm and genuine, making jokes and insisting on helping Lisa's daughter build a tower with blocks while the women caught up. Over the next few months, their friendship deepened in unexpected ways. They met for coffee when their schedules aligned. Their daughters, despite the age difference, adored each other. Christina became someone Lisa could call when she had a rough day at the hospital, and Lisa became the friend Christina trusted with her fears about balancing motherhood and her career. But it was Christina's foundation idea that really brought them together. 6 months after the emergency room incident, Christina officially launched the Foundation for Single-Parent Success. She asked Lisa to join the advisory board, and together they shaped programs that would actually help people like Lisa had been. The foundation offered grants for education, subsidized childcare, job training, and mentorship. But more than that, it offered hope. Christina spoke at the launch event about her own mother's struggles, and Lisa shared her story about the airplane, the check, and the transformation that followed. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Applications poured in from single parents all over the region. Each story broke Lisa's heart a little and filled it back up again. A father working 3 jobs to support his kids while studying to be a teacher, a mother escaping an abusive relationship, trying to rebuild her life, a guardian raising their sister's children after a tragedy, struggling to make ends meet. Lisa volunteered to review applications on her days off. She'd read each story carefully, seeing herself in so many of them. The exhaustion, the determination, the love that kept them going when everything else fell apart. She and Christina would meet to discuss which applicants to support, and Lisa's input became invaluable. She understood these struggles in a way that statistics and reports never could. One application in particular caught Lisa's attention. A young woman, barely 23, working as a waitress while raising her infant son alone. She wanted to become a dental hygienist but couldn't afford the certification program. Her situation was eerily similar to what Lisa's had been. This one, Lisa said to Christina during one of their review sessions. I want to help this one, Christina smiled. Then let's make it happen. They awarded the young woman a full grant for her program plus childcare assistance. When they called to tell her, the woman broke down sobbing on the phone. "I can't believe this is real," she kept saying. "Things like this don't happen to people like me." Lisa understood that feeling completely. "They do happen," she said gently. "And now it's happening to you. Just promise me one thing. When you're where you want to be someday, you help someone else climb up too." But Lisa didn't stop there. She started doing something else, something smaller but just as meaningful. She kept a careful eye on people she encountered at the hospital, at her daughter's school, in her neighborhood. Not in a nosy way, but in an aware way. Looking for those moments when someone needed help but was too proud or too tired to ask. The grocery store clerk who mentioned she couldn't afford her daughter's field trip. Lisa quietly left an envelope with the school office marked for that child's class fund. The patient's family member she overheard in the hospital cafeteria, trying to figure out how to pay for parking after spending every dollar on gas to visit their sick relative. Lisa bought a handful of parking vouchers and left them at the information desk with instructions to give them to families in need. The neighbor, who was clearly struggling, wearing the same worn shoes through winter. Lisa ordered a pair in her size online and left them at her door with a note that simply said, "From someone who's been there." She never made it about herself. She never wanted credit or thanks. She just wanted to be what Christina had been for her, an unexpected angel showing up at exactly the right moment. Lisa's daughter watched all of this, absorbing the lessons without being taught. She started her own small acts of kindness, sharing her lunch with the kid who always seemed hungry, donating her allowance to the food bank, standing up for the new student everyone else ignored. "You know what Mommy taught me?" she told her teacher during a class discussion about helping others. She said kindness is like a ball. When someone throws it to you, you don't just keep it. You throw it to someone else, and then they throw it to someone else, and it just keeps going and going. The teacher was so touched, she shared the story with Lisa at parent-teacher conferences. Lisa felt her eyes well up. This was what Christina had given her. Not just money or opportunity, but a legacy of compassion to pass down. 3 years after that fateful flight, Christina's foundation had helped over 200 families. Lisa had earned her bachelor's degree in nursing, taking online classes while working full-time. She'd been promoted to a senior nurse position with even better pay and more flexibility. She'd also started a small fund of her own, setting aside money each month. It wasn't much compared to Christina's foundation, maybe a few $1,000s a year, but it was hers to give. Once a year she chose someone she'd observed and felt needed a hand up, and she helped them. Sometimes with money, sometimes with connections, sometimes just with belief. She never told them it was from her. She'd learned from Christina that the gift itself mattered more than who gave it. One afternoon at the hospital, Lisa was checking on a patient in the cardiac unit when she noticed a young man in the waiting room. He was clearly exhausted, dressed in a food service uniform, bouncing a fussy toddler while trying to read what looked like a textbook balanced on his knee. During her break, Lisa struck up a conversation. His name was Michael, and his story came tumbling out. His wife had died in childbirth 2 years ago. He was working full-time at a restaurant while taking community college classes at night, trying to become a registered nurse just like Lisa. His parents watched his daughter during his shifts, but they were getting older and struggling with the energy required to chase a toddler. "I'm so close to finishing," he said, rubbing his tired eyes. "Just 1 more year, but I don't know if I can hold on that long. The childcare costs for evening classes are killing me, and I'm so tired all the time I can barely study." Lisa listened, her heart aching with recognition. She saw herself in him so clearly, that same determination mixed with desperation, that same love for a child driving every impossible decision. She excused herself and made a phone call to Christina. 20 minutes later, she returned to the waiting room. "Michael, can I talk to you for a minute?" She told him about Christina's foundation, about the programs available for single parents pursuing healthcare careers. She helped him fill out the application right there on his phone. Within a week, he was approved for a grant that covered his remaining tuition and evening childcare for his daughter. Michael called Lisa crying. "I don't understand why you're helping me." "You don't even know me." "Someone helped me once when I needed it most," Lisa said simply. "Now I'm helping you. And someday, when you're a nurse and you see someone struggling, you'll help them too. That's how this works." 5 years after the airplane incident, Lisa sat in the audience at Christina's Foundation annual gala. She was there as an advisory board member, but also as a donor herself now. She'd contributed $5,000 to the foundation, the exact amount Christina had given her all those years ago. The evening's program included video testimonials from people the foundation had helped. Michael was one of them. He'd graduated, passed his licensing exam, and was now working as a nurse in a pediatric unit. He spoke directly to the camera, tears streaming down his face, talking about how the foundation had saved his life and his daughter's future. "I was drowning," he said, "and someone threw me a rope. I'll spend the rest of my life throwing ropes to other people." Lisa watched Christina's reaction. Her friend was crying too, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Their eyes met across the room and they shared a smile that needed no words. After the gala, as Lisa drove home through the quiet city streets, she thought about that airplane 5 years ago. How a simple mistake, getting on the wrong part of the plane, had changed absolutely everything. How one woman's kindness had rippled outward in ways neither of them could have predicted. She thought about all the people she'd helped since then. The waitress studying to be a dental hygienist who was now working in a practice and volunteering at free clinics. The families who'd received anonymous help at just the right moment. Michael and all the others the foundation had supported. How many lives had been touched by that one $5,000 check? How many more would be touched as those people paid it forward in their own ways? When Lisa got home, her daughter was already asleep, but she'd left a note on the kitchen counter. "Mom, I saved my allowance all month and donated it to Christina's foundation. I want to help other kids whose parents are working hard like you did. Love you." Lisa sat down at the kitchen table and cried happy tears. This was it. This was what Christina had really given her. Not money, not opportunity, a legacy, a way of moving through the world with open hands and an open heart, always watching for the person who needed help, always ready to be someone's unexpected miracle. She pulled out her phone and texted Christina, "Thank you, not just for what you gave me, but for showing me what to do with it." The response came quickly. "Thank you for proving that betting on good people always pays off. You've inspired more people than you'll ever know." Lisa looked around her small apartment at the life she'd built, at the future she was creating, at the kindness she was spreading. She thought about her mother, who'd raised her with nothing but love and determination, who'd taught her that being rich meant having enough to share. She thought about Christina, who'd seen something worth saving in a tired, grieving woman on an airplane. And she thought about all the people out there right now, struggling and exhausted and holding on by their fingernails, who just needed one person to believe in them, one hand reaching down to pull them up. She made a decision right then. She'd do more, save more, help more, because that's what you did when you'd been given a second chance at life. You used it to give other people their second chances too. The next morning, Lisa woke up early and made breakfast for her daughter. As they ate together, she told her about the foundation, about Christina, about how one act of kindness had changed everything.